Well, good morning. Appreciate the opportunity to be here to talk about our state programs oversight at PHMSA. What I thought I would do would be to provide an overview. Some overlaps a bit of what Robert had discussed on and gives our perspective on how we manage the program, and then also finally conclude with some actions we have under development that we've taken and have under development. Like Scott, I'm afraid there's not too much I can say about the OIG audit that we're expecting the report on soon. I can discuss maybe in some generalities those points that Scott brought up, but like usual with the any audit that we receive, report with recommendations, we take them seriously and we do address them just like we do with the NTSB recommendations. You know, when I first looked at the title of this session, you know, who oversees the regulator, my first thought was, well, who doesn't oversee the regulator? We've been quite under the microscope here recently in the aftermath of these horrific incidents. Not that it was unwarranted, but there has been a heavy focus and critique of oversight programs in the pipeline industry. I must say that we do value our relationship with the states. We couldn't do it without them. As you'll see by the numbers I'll go through, there's just a vast network out there, and we rely on our state partners to oversee some of that for us. They are closer to the physical assets, closer than we are, and they really represent a force multiplier to our staff. They augment our staff and help us oversee pipeline safety in the U.S. Again, there are numerous more in the state oversight program than there are on the federal side, and I'll go through some of those numbers. First in review, back in the 1968 Natural Gas Pipeline Safety Act, the states were given the right to oversee pipeline safety in their states, and then the Hazardous Liquid Pipeline Safety Act of 1979. Prior to that point, oversight was primarily done by the states, and there are varying degrees of quality of those programs. The idea behind the Pipeline Safety Acts were to bring consistency to those programs and to bring under oversight for instance, the interstate network, which is primarily covered by the federal side. You need to point out that there's a word right that is specifically in the statute. The states have a right to carry out oversight if they meet certain requirements that are dictated in the statute. Just an overview of our pipeline transportation system in the U.S. You've seen this before, perhaps. Just want to point out this. The blue covers natural gas transmission. The red covers hazardous liquid, refined products, crude oil. And this represents only about 500,000 miles of the 2.6 million miles of pipelines that are in the U.S. This doesn't include the distribution lines, the lines around the French Quarter here, for instance, that serve natural gas. These are the interstate lines that move product between the states and major lines that are within the states. There are 51 state programs for intrastate gas, which includes the 48 states. Hawaii and Alaska do not participate. The District of Columbia and Puerto Rico are included in those 51, and then Arkansas has 2 programs. They have their gas oversight program, and then they have the Oil and Gas Commission that covers gathering lines. There are 9 interstate gas agents. That means they're agents of PHMSA that cover interstate gas transmission lines. There are 14 intrastate liquid programs, and then 5 hazardous liquid interstate programs, and then 1 interstate gas under what we call a 60106 agreement in Virginia for municipal systems. There are about 300 state pipeline safety inspectors out there, and then on the federal side, about 110 boots on the ground inspectors. If you count all the federal side, including our enforcement personnel, it's about 135, which is what we're authorized by Congress. So as you can see by the numbers there of what we oversee versus what the states do, they cover about 90% of the mileage that's out there, of the pipeline mileage. And that includes, most of it is distribution lines, which covers your half-inch service lines up to your house, up to your gas meter. to the gas mains, back to the gate station that brings gas, or where the gas comes into your various cities. That is the bulk of what is the mileage that's out there on the distribution side that is covered by the states. So as a general rule of thumb, we on the federal side inspect the interstate, the states inspect the intrastate pipelines. There are some exceptions, though, as I've identified. You know, the Act, Pipeline Safety Act, established requirements, also established a system of grants for funding the states. And that grants program, it's a grant and aid program that authorizes up to 80% funding levels, which covers personnel and equipment for the states. We don't directly manage the programs. That's up to the states to manage their pipeline safety programs. But we do set the program goals, which are covered in our annual audits of the states. And then we also measure their accomplishments at the end of that cycle. Now, their performance and the results of our review does affect their grant funding. They do get deductions that affects the funding levels, and we do measure that annually through program evaluations and their progress report scorings. It's kind of a two-tier review that we do of the states. And of course, our goal, and everyone's goal, is to have high-performing state pipeline safety programs. We work closely with them. We don't want them to fail, and we will provide technical assistance. We'll be out there to assist them as needed to ensure their success. We work with them if they're having issues. There's some small state programs that may have two people who cover the pipeline safety program. And there may be issues with ensuring their training is completed in a timely manner, and we work with them to make sure and facilitate the training for their people, and then also visit and provide mentoring to them if needed as well. Now, this slide really covers the types of participation by the states. The one that's the most prevalent is what's called the 60105A certification. That's just a statute reference. And that's where the states cover inspection and enforcement. And that primarily covers the intrastate, the distribution pipelines that you see. There's also what's called the 60106 agreement, where the state has the inspection authority, but then we do the enforcement. And then we have the interstate agent agreements where the state will inspect the interstate pipeline, but then we'll also handle the enforcement. They'll turn the findings over to us, the state will, and then we'll take care of the enforcement action. Now, the Pipeline Safety Act does require states to adopt the minimum federal standards. It does allow them, and in many cases they do, establish more stringent standards. I think Robert referred to that. I think, have a link that does work there for getting to what we call the compendium that was developed. It's a one-stop shop, if you will, of all the states and all the regulations that states have enacted, or the statutes that are above pipeline safety regulations. That link there should get you to that. Yeah. Wow, time flies. Okay, I'll just rush through these next few, because some of these are obvious. I know we have various levels of knowledge in the room there, but when states don't exercise their authority, we are the backstop. We have the grants program, which provides a significant funding is to encourage participation. Like I said at the beginning, the states do. I mean, they are there local. They're closer to the physical assets to respond, and they do, in many cases, enact more stringent regulations. Then they also handle excavation damage prevention enforcement, which is an area we're getting into with rulemaking, but they actually have it currently. Let me just rush through these because I think it's important that I get to the end to cover some actions that we're doing. But obviously, they do have rate-setting authority, and the connection between rates and safety in many states has provided another incentive for operators to ensure pipeline safety. It's just another tool in the toolbox, if you will. Training, the states attend the same training that the federal regulators do, the federal inspectors do. It's about a 3-year process from start to finish to attend all the training classes that are held at our Oklahoma facility, Oklahoma City facility. I'll just thumb down to get toward the end. We have basically 7 positions that perform the audit function of the states that work under Zach Barrett. I have links. You can look at this at your convenience. Links to some of the forms and some of the protocols that we have to review the state programs. The progress report, what we use annually to rate the state's oversight. And then here's my last slide related to recent actions. Now, we are looking at, in response to the OIG audit, which is still draft and not final, but we are looking at our consistency across the states, I guess, in follow-up to some observations that were made. It's really not any different from when I was working the region offices. When I oversaw the region offices a few months ago, there's always the issue of consistency, and that's not that's the same essentially with the state program. When you have various people and different people that go audit different assets, you strive for consistency, and that concern is there, and it can be there. So we're striving to improve consistency in how we review the states and how we score the states. We have updated our evaluation related to enforcement actions that the states take. There's been a particular focus on civil penalties. That is part of our review of the states, our annual review. And we're looking at being more investigative in our investigations of the state. That's an additional procedure, if you will, we've enacted to be more investigative in following a state's inspection from the beginning all the way through the enforcement and to ensure timely enforcement action. That's been a focus to follow the chain from beginning to end, as opposed to spot checks, which we still do of the program. We raised the criteria for the civil penalty amounts, as you see there, from $100,000 per day up to a maximum of $1 million per day. That's part of the scoring criteria. We're in the early stages of standing up a mentoring program. We offer a lot of technical support or as needed to the states. I know recently we were out in the state of California offering help to the CPUC related to welding issues. We'll continue to do that. We're going to Vermont pretty soon to assist regulator up there on some technical issues. We've developed formal guidance for decertification, and we're developing rulemaking for that. The statute does have requirements and gives us the authority to decertify states, but we're going to put that into regulation. We don't need the regulations to do that. We have decertified a state before, but that's a procedural issue we're cleaning up. And then finally, we'll address the recommendations from the IG when they come out. As I said, we take them seriously, and we will follow up, as we will do with the NTSB recommendations that we're already working on in the aftermath of the San Bruno incident. I guess I'll wrap it up so we have more time for Q&A at the end, hopefully. So, but be glad to answer questions at the end. Thanks.